Boom. It's the first Cougarland podcast in years, ever since everybody was at home on the home from work experiment for a few years. And here we are. We're back.
It's time.
It's time. And nothing's changed. You look the same as 30 years ago. I don't know. I'm going to guess how many years it's been since I've seen you.
Well, it's been
more
like
than your kids are old. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Oh my God. How many?
You probably had two of your kids together, and it still would be less time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. My oldest is 18 in a couple weeks, and my youngest is 10.
Wow.
So that's her birthday stuff right there. In fact, it's her birthday coming up. So.
She was so cute. Met her the other day when I was talking to you. I was like, "Look at this! You're still like popping out kids, and they're all young and happy and vital, and they're wonderful." Really smart, really smart. I was like really impressed.
She's in your face, that's for sure.
Yeah. She probably wants to start a podcast herself, I would guess.
Yeah, an experiment. She has actually talked about it. She wants to do a podcast on cooking and just whatever experiment she's doing. What did she do yesterday? She was making slow motion videos of slurping up spaghetti noodles. And
oh my goodness!
Yeah, so it's something every day. So
where were you? I mean, what did your dad do in the military? Was he civilian or was he in the military himself? Did they get you to Vicenza?
Yeah, he was in the military. He was, I think when he left the military, he was a colonel, and he didn't play golf. So that was the ceiling he was at. Because if you don't golf, you don't get to be anything higher than colonel, I guess. So he went and started working. He moved here to Huntsville and started working for Lockheed or Colsa or something like that afterward.
So where were you born originally?
I was born in El Paso, actually, but we only lived there for I don't know, 6 months or something. So
it's kind of like, I was born in New Hampshire and we moved when I was 3 to Germany. So I was like, bye. Yeah. Where are you from? Somewhere else?
Yeah, right. I'm from nowhere. I often said that. I'm from nowhere.
How many times did your folks move you guys around? I mean, being the military brat.
I think it was between 14 and 17 times, which is pretty crazy to think about it. But I counted it one time and I was like, surely I'm wrong. But that's what I think it was, 17 or 14. You learn after a while to just allow your life to restart and become whoever you want that time and change everything, I
respect that. I think it's like, I didn't have to move, but I had to be like the greeter because, okay, we moved to Germany. And when I was 5, my dad get a call and Italy was going, hey, we need a coach. And he's like, is the weather warm? Because we're in Germany. It's all gray and drab. And he's like, yeah, it's sunny, coach. He's like, oh, I'm coming down there. Done. So we moved, I think we took like an extended camping trip. We went to Paris. We went to Spain on our way down to Italy and ended up in Vicenza with our trailer. We had a little trailer, kept it parked behind the high school for a while. So I'd like, go to the trailer after school, like go hang out there. And
I mean, the lives that we had were really great, as far as seeing the world and stuff. My kids haven't been anywhere. It sucks. I don't know how. I mean, just in the course of a year, just taking a vacation is so hard. How did our parents move all the time? I don't know how they did it, honestly.
You got to look at the opportunity they had and the opportunity we have. I mean, now a lot of people, their kids are going to grow up and they're going to live with them because you get out of high school, you need to make $60,000 to $90,000 to get your first apartment.
Yeah.
When we were kids, you could just like run away and get some job at a video store and maybe, rent a room from somebody and live independently at 15, right?
Yeah, not the case anymore. It's crazy. Well, and they could just, I don't know, maybe life was just simpler then. I don't know, but there's just not. It just seems like there's just less mobility, and of course societies go down when there's no mobility, because if you can't move the people around, you can't move the money around. So that's kind of what's going on, I think, right now.
I've been traveling a lot, but I'm like kidless, and with my, my wife is addicted to travel, so we go. And
That's awesome.
and I'm ready to just be a potato and sit there. And she's like, "No, we're going to Finland. Now we're going to Sweden. And I want to go to Iceland. No, we're going to Greece." I'm like, "Huh? What? What? Can't we just go to like down the street
What?
place over an hour drive from here?" And I take these
Right? Yeah. I mean, we go to the beach, but that's it. We go to the beach. Oh, do you? Do you live on the beach?
Right by it. I live 6 miles from it.
Oh man, that's awesome.
That's why I picked North Carolina. I mean, my wife was working remote, and I'm like, okay, we have to be stuck at the city where you have to be like in Silicon Valley, where her last job was, downtown San Jose, California, which is right next to all that, Santa Clara and all the big tech. And it's like, oh, if you can just take your computer and you don't have to get caught in the driving, traffic doesn't matter. You can go buy a house for a fifth or sixth the price.
Yeah.
In a more desirable area. Because I think in California, this house would be in the millions. And it's, it didn't even cost anything close to that. But that's California. Everything's $1 million in California.
It's true. It's a good way of keeping all the riffraff out, I guess.
Well, even somehow there's $1 million riffraff, because that's the only price available. I mean,
they're riffraff too. I love the Carolinas. For a while, I wanted to move to Charleston, Carolina, and my choice was to move here to Huntsville or to Charleston, and I chose here after thinking about how centrally located it is, and I wanted to work for NASA, so that's what I did. So I moved here from Seattle back then.
You have a few Cougars that live up there. You know that? I don't know if you do.
No, I don't know that. I didn't know that.
So you got the Arsenals right by there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Derek Gould is still up there with his wife. I think it's like he was one of my first podcasts, and he ran into your sister because he went and bought gelato from her ice cream place.
Yeah. Okay.
So your sister, who I've never seen on social media. I've never seen Anna on social media, so I don't know.
Oh, Anna doesn't do any computer anything.
Nothing?
And Sam is Sam's really hard to nail down, even for me. I'm like, come on, Sam, let's get together. Come on, let's get together. Well, but both of them are here. But Sam, it's just really hard to nail her down. She just is like, she's like a ghost. She's just everywhere. And
so that's how some people become when they grow up, right? I mean, they're gone. Right?
Yeah, she's gone. I mean, if we all went to school together, she'd be there. But since we're not going to school, she's just, at an estate sale. She loves to estate sale. She goes to estate sales all the time. Smart thing to do, because people don't know what they've got, and she finds the most amazing things, and then she sells them. And that she's busy doing that. And I like to go to auctions. They're super fun. And then she goes down to Florida a lot. And so I don't even know. I'll have to, when I text her, I'm like, are you in Huntsville? Because I never know where she's going to be, so.
Does she still have her place or ice cream gelateria or whatever?
Yeah. It's called Sam and Greg's. There's 2 locations now. I don't think they're going to open a third, because it's, but they did that just on a whim. They decided, we should probably do this because, back then, I guess, like 15 years ago, little companies were just buying up other smaller companies, and I don't even know what they're doing with them, because they're not.
Kind of like start something. It's like an app, and then like Windows buys you or Android buys you or
They just bought, and so they would just buy. So they bought the company that they worked for. They didn't even do anything with it. I think they just bought it to see if somebody one day would want to sell it. It was a software company.
It's like sitting on a domain. I own fish.com. One day someone's going to offer me $10 million for fish.com, whatever, right? It's like that.
Right. So they bought it. Somebody bought it, and then so Sam and Greg, they just were like, well, let's the pizza's easy. Let's figure out how. So they went to Italy actually to see how a pizzeria was run well, and they said, you don't have to have a cook if you got a pizzeria. You just all you do is make one thing, pizza. So
oh my goodness.
It was a very smart idea. And then, so now that's what they don't even have to work now. That other people, they pay their people really well, and their people never leave. And the money just comes in. Smart, really smart. But Greg works his butt off. He never stops working. And you have to be a certain caliber of person to run a thing like that, I think. And he's just, he likes to yell at people, and he never stops working. You got to be one of them,
Embrace the grind. Yell at people and grind. Yeah, how fun is that?
You got to be able to yell at people, otherwise, it won't work. So
yeah, he used to drive a stagecoach and yell at the horses, but then he got this company. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the reason I knew about this is because Derek's like, yeah, I'm out talking about Vicenza, and this lady's like, I know Vicenza, and it was your sister. So
oh yeah.
So Derek was running MWR, which is all like the rec center and the travel and the ski rentals and all the kind of stuff, all the benefits for the Army life. Like it's a GS job on the base at Arsenal. And then Arthur King lives out there. Art King, he was one of my buddies I used to hang out with. And so I know they live there. And I went through Alabama, but I was probably a couple hours away. Where do you guys have the racetrack? I'm trying to think where Ricky Bobby raced. What's the name of that place?
I have no idea.
I'll tell you in a second.
I don't know where that is. We're in kind of a little, Operation Paperclip. You know what that is?
Talladega. Yes, I know about Operation Paperclip. Yes.
That's us. Operation Paperclip. Everybody, all the Germans, everybody here is German. So
you have lots of German restaurants in Oktoberfest in Alabama.
We do actually, weirdly, but parts of this area look like Germany. So they've got all of the German scientists from World War II and said, hey, we'll put you up in this place that looks like Germany. It's like Alabama has a certain look, but for whatever reason, right here where they ended up putting NASA, it looks like Germany. It's like all green and evergreen trees. It looks like the Black Forest. So it's actually parts of it up where I live is actually a rainforest. So it's actually going to cool as the rest of the state heats up. This area, this one tiny area will cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I like it. I don't want to get too hot. Heat sucks. So
that's the compromise. I moved from California that was pretty much non-humidity where I lived. Well, at least you didn't feel it. It might have been there, but it wasn't the wet humidity like there is in the Carolinas comparatively. But this is not Florida or Louisiana, which I've both been to. I've been to New Orleans, and I was like, who's slapping me in the face with a wet blanket? A warm, wet blanket. It's like, here's that towelette they give you when you get off the plane. Yeah. It's that kind of thing.
It's hot as blazes. I've gotten used to it because it's very moisturizing, where, when we leave the state, it's just like, oh my God, somebody's blowing a hair dryer in your face. It's very, but it took a while to get used to, but the decision to move here was right because it is really centrally located. Like everyone goes through here. All of the jobs go through here. Everything. This is like the center of everything. So,
well, it's no wonder. I mean, so there's 1, 2, 3, like Cougars out there that I know, and then your sisters. That makes like 5, 6. That means that there's probably double that because another guy, I think he was in your class. I forget his last name. Glenn. It might be Glenn Gravel. That might be his last name.
Yeah, I that name's familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, real tall guy.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So he, I think Derek hired him, and now Derek retired, but I think Derek hired him to work there. So there another girl that knew him in high school, and I can't think of what her name is, so we'll have to ask Derek. So there's more Cougars cruising around. You're probably just walking by them in Walmart going, that's a weird
probably person. Saying, wait,
that's a weird person. And they were, they're your alumni, right?
When I went to college, there was this girl walking by And I was like, her voice sounds familiar. And then I looked at the girl who I knew she was actually from Neubrücke, Germany, this girl. And she had huge feet back when we were little. So I looked at her feet. They were huge. And I was like, Kathleen, and it was her. I couldn't believe it. She just happened to be walking by. And that has happened to me so many times. It's a little weird.
What a funny way to remember people. Do you remember me for my large elbows? I mean, what the heck? No, I'm kidding.
Well, when I was in a bar in Washington, D.C., when I lived at Catholic University for a while, and I lived with the White House interns. I was going to art school at the Corcoran. And I was in a bar in the basement of a building, kind of like the ones we went to in Italy.
Yeah,
and,
like
yeah, and we were eating or something, and then in walks all of the teachers from Vicenza, except for Mr. Hakim and Odetta. They decided to take a walk, apparently, but all the teachers had gone to Washington, D.C., and they just happened to walk into this one place in this building into the basement. I couldn't believe it.
What and I went like, am I next to Villaggio? I mean, I thought I was in the States. What happened? You're just having a double.
Yeah, it was. I mean, just the idea that happened was pretty bizarre. But they all walked in. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I think I was like, I guess I was 20. Was I 20? I don't know, something like that. Wasn't too long after we left that. And there they all were. It was crazy. And I was like, where's Mr. Hakim? They're like, oh, he went to take a walk. I should have run out and tried to find him, but I didn't. I was just like kind of.
Just look for the local art gallery or photo gallery or something. You would have found him probably.
Yeah. He probably didn't want to sit down. He wasn't a sitter downer.
Well, we'll get back to Mr. Hakim because that's kind of how I know you. It's funny. We were classmates. But so Vicenza, was that your first like long time in one place where you really get to take in the culture and just like, home for a while because you moved 17 times, like you said.
Yeah.
And that's some serious bouncing.
Yeah. It was the longest, I think. And that's certainly where I consider home, Well, and since we lived in Germany a couple, like 3 times in different places and Italy, we would always go to France, to my cousins who lived in France. And that's really where my real home, I think, was for me, except for I didn't go to school there, so yeah, Vicenza.
I remember you guys, was your mother French or something? Like you guys, I remember some French ancestry about you and your sister.
No, mom's sister was French. She's, she married a Frenchman. And,
okay.
No, my ancestry was a mystery for a really long time until we finally took a DNA test. People would come up and say, are you Spanish? Are you Indian? Are you? And I actually went out west to the Navajo people because I have an uncle out there. And I asked them if they thought I was Navajo. And they decided I was, just based on how I looked. And they inducted me into their tribe, which was awesome. And so on my Social Security card, it said Navajo Indian for a long time. Until, until one day they switched it back just because they didn't look at it carefully enough. And so now I'm not Navajo, but I found out that from DNA that I'm Basque, which is really funny because when I was in
Spain.
Northern Spain, yeah, it's between Spain and France, and
you're drinking from the wine bag.
Yeah, and so when I was younger, we would go out to Normandy, me and my cousins, and we would eat at a restaurant, out in the country, and these people on the edges, in the dark parts of the restaurant, really big, monster people. We thought, we were 18. We thought, those are Neanderthals, right? Because we had learned in school that Neanderthals went, that way, and they died off on the coast of Spain. And so we decided those were Neanderthals. We were like, oh my God, they're still here. And we made fun of them for freaking years. And turns out that's me. That's my people. Those are me. I'm a Neanderthal. And in fact, it turned, when I studied the DNA or whatever, it turns out that Basque people have like almost no Neanderthal in them, as opposed to everyone else in the world has 4+%.
That's going to be one of my next places I go, because I go to Spain a lot. I go to Barcelona.
Do you?
I go to the Canary Islands, and Madrid. All of it. I like Spain.
I want to go
I
up
speak
there.
Spanish.
I want to learn the language, not Spanish, but the
Basque is different. So that would take some listening for me. I mean, because Latin being the primary language that all the priests use to communicate, I was able to speak Spanish in like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, Spanish I got. But
it didn't take much of a decoding, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I can speak. I think I can speak Spanish. No, I can't necessarily speak it, but I can understand it as well as English, I think.
You just gotta let go and just like and they're like, damn, they were like.
Well, we hear so much of it in the United States, so
My wife, Mexican is what I learned. I call it Mexican, its own language, because it's got its own slang and everything in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's got its own, and it's got some of the Indian and Spanish mix of the Mexican, where the people originated from, the cohesion there. You get to Spain and they speak slightly differently but similar. So it's like in between the Mexican and the Italian. I'm like, okay, I got Italian. I'm okay with Italian. Yeah. And so it's like I pick it up. And my wife took the lesson, and she's like, "You don't speak Spanish." I go, "Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Didn't study anything." Go, "Yeah, I do."
Yeah. It doesn't take
Leonardo.
Yeah. Just a different lilt and add a few S's where you normally would have I's. So
a couple little they say España with the
Oh yeah, they do. You're right. Yeah.
España, and then and then Mexican people go more like España.
So that's true. You're right. Yeah. How about that? That's very interesting. I think somewhere I had realized that, but I had never really thought about that. That's true.
Español. Yeah, it's just a little
it's true. That must be like the fancier.
And if I'm wrong, someone like, I don't know, Michelle Mobley, who's really Spanish, will be like watching this like, Lynn doesn't know anything, but it's okay. Right now, I'm being very confident in the podcast.
Yeah.
This could be fake news, guys. You don't know.
It's fake news. Everything in the Aquarian age is fake news.
That's actually new. That's a new podcast, Fake News Cougarland podcast. We never went to high school together. We're just pretending.
Yeah.
That would be funny. So what year did you get there to Vicenza?
1984, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. And then left in 87. So I think it was 1984, maybe 83. I'm not sure. I was there for, 10th, 11th, 12th. That's right. Only
10th, 11th, 12th?
10th, 11th, 12th, yeah.
So look at this. Let's see if this comes up. It's supposed to be pictures of you. So you are right here. This is before your hair got really big. So you're on the top here. I don't know if you can see this. If I can make this any bigger, actually. Let me find this one. So I have these all open on my computer. And those are some of your classmates. Have you kept in touch with anybody that you see on that picture?
I mean, from time to time, I used to talk to Peter Ritchie a lot, then he disappeared, and I talk to Alan from time to time still. I've talked to Lita, and Kathy Summers came down a long time ago. She came down and stayed at my place. Yeah, everybody a little bit, here and there, but not like constantly,
Let's see who I've talked to on here. I've talked to you. I had two guys in the top left on a podcast. Both Scott and Steffo came on the Cougarland podcast. We come down, and Billy down here in the middle. I hung out with him in Myrtle Beach about a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And because he lives about maybe 80 miles from me. And then Peter Ritchie, I met him in California a couple times. And Lisa Rolick, we did a podcast, and we've talked a lot. Steve Shuey, I've talked to him. He actually lived close to me, just like an hour and a half drive, but I was always doing something in California, so we never really met up. But that's who I remember from here. And when's the last time you ran into anybody from VHS in person?
Oh, gosh, it's been years, like 20 years. I mean, but I've been, you know me, I'm like insane busy all the time. So,
Yeah, you'd
um,
freak out if you didn't have anything to do. I get it.
well, yeah, I've just got these, I just have goals that I've just got to reach. And, when I'm doing something like this, you look at the yearbook and I'm like, well, maybe I should change my goals. Maybe I ought to, but I just,
This was you before you get all ambitious. This was you before you get all wild and ambitious.
oh yeah, look, I'm a baby. Look at my
Look at the
cute
resident
baby.
artist, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You're like looking at this stuff going, these are like probably like a list of goals, probably 50 goals. When I
Instant
grow up,
art.
I'm gonna, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm still exactly the same. I haven't changed. I haven't
So
changed much.
what was your first impression of moving to Vicenza? After where did you came from, Germany, right? Or somewhere like that, I'm guessing.
Let's see. Before Vicenza, I was in Virginia, and
Oh, okay. Okay, big change.
it was like coming home. It was really weird. Both Samantha and I, the very first night we were in Vicenza, I remember, we walked down the street. We went downtown with, I think, my parents also. I don't know how my parents figured out how to do that, but we went downtown and we were walking around on a cobblestone street, and it was like a sense of just unbelievable relief that we were home finally. And
Had that feeling. Wow.
it was not even. It was just like, I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was like, thank freaking God, because the United States is a really hard place to live.
It's a
Um,
different adaptation. And I don't know if you're living in Europe, everyone else is living in Europe with you. Like you go to Germany, the Heidelberg kids, they've probably bounced around. Maybe they lived in Naples before, maybe they lived in Japan or, you know, so you
yeah,
get something in common with them, right? There's that everybody knows, you know?
yeah, yeah. Well, you mean like military kids?
Yeah. I mean,
They're
had you
like,
traveled to Italy before you came to Italy since you lived in Europe before?
no, never traveled to Italy, but I think that it was just going from the United States where everything is impersonal and your neighbors are far away from you. The doors of your neighbors are far away from your door. There's no place to walk. You can't walk downtown. You got to be in a car, and it's just so impersonal and it's just so stressful. And you get used to it. But when you go to Europe, all of a sudden you're like, oh, thank God, a humane place to live. And this is something that I hope that the United States will start to learn. I mean, there's an architect that I love to listen to named Kunstler, and he gives lectures about how the United States just doesn't give a crap about place. And how Walmart, since we don't have to build buildings that make sense anymore, the United States has opted to prioritize profit over beauty. And so
Well,
we don't really have a
it's not
place.
walkable. It's not very
It's
walkable, is
not
what.
walkable. Even if it was walkable, you're not going to want to walk out, in a parking lot, ridden town where all the buildings are made from metal sheeting. You know,
Well, I
we,
think they do that in Colorado, and my wife was just in Oregon, and they have a lot of walkable developments because
yeah,
they want that. Like you can walk for 2 hours and come back, and the coffee shop,
yeah, that's
little
important.
restaurants, the social, and there's a
Right,
frisbee disc golf place, whatever, right?
right. Yeah, so
That
you have to like find those communities here, whereas over there, and it's a consequence of when it was built. We this country had nothing in it by the time the car was invented, and so our cities grew up around cars, so we were like we didn't have to make it so that you could walk to the bakery or walk to the whatever, and we had wood. We didn't have all that stone that they have in Europe, so they built their houses out of stone, and so they still look like they did in 1500, and so there's this character. But ours were wood, and we tore them down, except for the log cabins that are still sitting there. Um,
that was a
so
funny one for my wife. She's from Russia, and so they go, "You guys make your stuff out of sticks." And whatever sticks in mud, that was what the people were saying to her. She wasn't saying that per se because she owns the house out here. But I mean,
yeah,
obviously, yeah, we have a brick facade, we have a brick front, but
yeah, yeah.
it's not the whole house a brickety brick house. It's like
Yeah, I mean that's well, and even in places now, lumber is so cheap because of the how we can process it now. Even in places where it is mostly rocks, we still build out of sticks, and that's fine. But it doesn't preserve any history.
I like, I go to Europe. I like for some reason, the cement, the finish. It's like, hey, it doesn't have the imperfections where someone bumped into the sheetrock or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah, it's
but I was like,
nice.
how do they do plumbing? Do they get a jackhammer and go through the wall to get to the pipe?
Yeah,
Like,
or they
maybe
put
there's
it on the
also a
outside of the
downside to it.
wall, right? Yeah, that's the difficulty. So there are some, yeah, the some of the architecture. You know, my cousin's looking for a house in Normandy now, and you find a lot of medieval houses, but there's no bathrooms, so they have to put a bathroom in, and it's all plastic garbage. You know, it's just like, oh, so yeah, there's some drawback, but
You, you
it was.
you lived in Bellagio, right? So that was walkable, busable,
Yeah,
bikeable.
yeah. Villaggio was awesome. We could make American towns like this. So the place where I decided to move here in Huntsville, there's a little mountain in Huntsville. And I decided to move up here on the mountain because the mountain was built kind of like a village, like the village I lived in Germany. And everything was in a circle, and there's lots of walking space. We've got hiking trails everywhere and trees everywhere, and I think that's really important. I wanted my kids to grow up in a place like that, and we, you know, weren't able to go to Europe. I wanted to raise them in Europe, but couldn't do that because of security clearances and stuff that you have to have when you work in this town. So they don't like that if you move to Europe. So
That was
uh,
the thing. It's like those kind of jobs.
yeah,
Like, I'm married to somebody that would have had a really good crack at any one of those type of jobs.
yeah,
But she's like, I don't want to travel and have to like, so who did you talk to at the cafe? And blah, blah. It's like all this
right, right.
over monitoring, and
It's
it's
pretty
like,
crazy. Yeah, some people are, you know, that's the sucky part is that, you know, and I even wanted my kids to go to our school, our high school
right.
in Vicenza, but security clearance, you know, so you can't
It's gone.
necessarily
Our
do it.
school's gone, by the way. It's get torn down.
I know, so sad. And
Right.
I think a couple people went there. Jeff Pisano, was it Jeff Pisano? Maybe not. No, it was
It was Chris Camera.
Jamie
Jamie went back there. Yeah. I know you're
and they were
talking
going
about.
to take some pictures of the mosaic, the time capsule that we put there. But and then I don't know what happened. I don't know if they couldn't find it or what. But they were going to get the stuff out of the time capsule or something. And I don't know what happened with that since they were tearing the school down. You know, so we'll have
Just
to.
look at the hair here. What's going on over here, Kara?
I
I'm
know.
it's right next to you, so I can really get a good shot.
Yeah. See.
See, yeah, there we go. Kind of
Yeah.
look the same. Looks
Yeah.
pretty much
I
the
like
same.
my hair that short. I might do that again. It's really really long now, but I think I prefer it like that. Maybe I'll do that.
So, what was the instant positives? What did you like? Tell me about your like first impressions and kind of like your first years. What was it like for you? Like just the first year in Italy.
You know what's really weird is that there was a kid at the school when I entered VHS, and he was from my school back in the States, and he knew my friends in the States, even though he had left like a year earlier or something. It was really weird. Um, so we were talking about my friends in the States, which was odd. But I was again the situation, just remembering the situation in the States and the situation in Vicenza. I was so lucky to move to Vicenza,
Well,
and I remember it.
you're an artist. You're an artist, so
I'm an
where
artist. Well, I mean, and just the stressor, you know, how stressful it was to be in the U.S. as a kid. Your school had what my school in the United States had like 900 people in its graduating class, and then we
wow.
went to Vicenza and there was 50 people. It was so much nicer in every way because you got to know people, and the teachers were intelligent in Vicenza, whereas the teachers in the United States school were, I don't know, they were miserable for the most part. They didn't want to be there. They wished they were working somewhere else. Whereas in Vicenza, they really wanted to be there. That was just a huge advantage that we had.
Yeah, I mean, you were. I remember you and your sisters arrived. I don't know when I get to know you. Maybe it was like halfway after you were there, whatever. I was there since I was 5.
Wow.
And yeah, so
What?
I was there kindergarten till a year past high
Wow.
school.
You're really lucky. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, I get the maximum. I think my brother
Wow.
got more than me. Yeah, he did actually, technically, because he
Wow.
was younger. So you
Man,
get more years. He was just younger when he got there. He wasn't 5; he was like 3. So whatever it
that's
was,
awesome.
I forget the exact number. But I know that we moved there with my dad's Volvo, and he's like, "I get a Volvo." I'm like, "Okay, we get a Volvo." So we had a Volvo from Germany. Drove that everywhere. He drove that till past my graduation. I mean, he had that thing forever.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, okay. And that was the European life. And I don't know. I always wanted to go back to States, and I always thought I was missing out because you watch the movies. They weren't making movies about Vicenza, but we
Yeah,
were
that's true.
living one hell of a life, you know?
Oh man, we were. And I mean, I think I was aware of it at the time. I knew that we were really freaking lucky. And I did, you know, as is my habit, I tried to soak up as much of it as I possibly could. So, um, I took it all complete advantage of, the school and, learning everything that we could there and going everywhere, traveling and studying and drawing and everything. I did everything that I could to absorb as much as possible. It was,
Would you do that on the weekend because you're so art centric? I mean, would you go to all the historic art and go
oh
see it?
yeah, I would travel, I would walk because, my parents didn't understand, you know, what they just didn't understand what an advantage they had their own world. So I would walk with my backpack and drawing stuff and my camera and find little churches out in the villages that I would walk through and villas that were nearby. And I would take pictures and draw and sit and meditate in the little chapels. I mean, it's a little medieval chapel. You can go to a medieval chapel, go in. There's nobody there. No one is locking the door because they're not afraid of robbers. You know what I mean? There were,
Yeah.
who knows? There could have been gold in there. I didn't even notice one way or the other, but there are all kinds of relics or whatever. And I'm just sitting in there meditating or whatever. And then you leave. It's just, that's the way it should be. It's just crazy. And, villas just down the street. It was just awesome. I remember a village where I was overlooking a hill and the lady was sweeping with some sticks. She just tied a bunch of sticks together and she was sweeping. I was like, oh, right, duh. That's how you make a broom. What an advantage we had. And we would go to, one time, Alan Bruzzo came by. He had gotten a car and he'd learned how to drive somehow. And he came by my house. He was waving the shift stick out the window saying, hey, because it was such a junker. Hey, I got a car. And we went up to Romeo and Juliet's castle, which was in the, near his house, probably somewhere.
I think that's in Verona. I think that's in Verona.
Oh, is it in Verona? It might have been in Verona. And it was just a ruin on the top of the hill. And there was one over, another one that you could see from that one. And we were like going in, trying to dig in through the wall. And, it's just like, what opportunity?
My bad. It's in Montecchio Maggiore. Yeah.
In fact, I think you're right. Yes.
Mm-hmm,
And it was, you could just go up there and go into a castle. Just nobody was in there. Just do whatever. So we were looking for the dungeon. And I don't know if we found it, but we did find a lot of spiders. So we decided.
Definitely plenty of those.
Yeah. There were a lot of
well,
spiders.
I knew you in art class. I also knew you before that. I think we were hanging out. You were going out with Jeff, and we were hanging out. We were hanging out during North 40 fireworks, drinking beer on the North 40. Nobody was paying attention. It was good times.
Yeah, I remember.
It was a blast.
Yeah.
And then I ran into you guys another time. These are just my memories. Like, if you can think of any time, like, I remember you from Foodland.
Oh, I remember everything. I remember all of it.
So I remember us hanging out in the Lido of the Venezia.
Oh, yeah.
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 I was there with Mark, and I think you and Pisano were there. You guys like, hey, we're all hanging out, just like, because that was a cool little beach. You wouldn't think that you go to Venice, the water's all gnarly and yucky. You're like, oh, smells like seaweed. It smells horrible, right?
Yeah.
And then you get on the little bus boat, the Valparaiso, whatever, you go over to the Lido, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you could swim in this beach.
Oh wow,
Like,
a nearly modern town. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And do you remember there was a medieval church that once you got off the Vaporetto, you had to go to get to the beach. You walked across the street, and then there was this medieval, very old Romanesque church that had like little slit windows. And I didn't even think, I was so used to it, I didn't think, oh, let's go in there. No, I didn't even. I'm just like, cool church, and just keep going to the beach. You just if I could go back, I'd like go in there and just it was probably just a few pews and some rocks, but
Well, it's I don't know. I just got back from Rome, and I'm there with my buddy that I grew up, an Italian friend Paolo that my brother and I grew up with. He was our neighbor in Vicenza, so we lived on the economy, as they want to call it, the economy. We lived in the rock chain. No, I'm joking. So we lived with the Italians, not in Villaggio. I was probably 7 miles away. And it's funny because I look back and I go, well, some people had a different level of rapport, or some people had more dates because where they lived, because the girl they liked lived next door, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like Billy got a chance because there was nobody else. He was the best looking guy in the laundromat, and whatever. That was kind of how it worked. Proximity was value. I'd had none of that stuff. I was like way out. So was Mark. So, that's why we're just.
Y'all were way out, but I think I saw you guys more than I saw a lot of the kids that were in the Villaggio.
Well, we all kind of hung out like you had won some art contests. We were in Hakim's together, and then talking the other day, we both worked at SEB, and I'm like, wow. And here we are podcasting. This is funny. And I'm like, okay, so we did this, and then I used to hang out with Jeff, and we played football together, but I also knew Alan, and Alan and I used to go out and party and drink and stuff and go to his parents' winery. And there's our guest. And basically, they go, we need somebody to design our label. And you had just won some art contest. And I was like, you know what? Can you should talk to this girl. She can make your wine. You know what I mean? She can make your label. So you went out and spent a couple weeks. I think they paid you 12 bottles of wine or something. I thought they were going to give you like $1 million.
Oh, you maybe you mean, I don't know if I did another label besides, I did the Cabruzzo label.
Yeah.
I went out there and drew all of the different, I think I drew Montevecchio and some Mother Mary walls and things they had in the area. Yeah. And they paid me 12 bottles of wine, something like that.
Yes. So you were already a professional commercial artist in 10th, 11th grade, I guess.
Yeah, that was my one wine bottle extra.
You were somebody now. Your parents were probably like, what do you mean you're giving my daughter 12 bottles of wine? Because weren't your parents rather strict, if I recall? I don't know.
They were. Yeah, my parents.
You had to sneak out and hang out with us. We were the wild ones. So I didn't know if that was the case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm stunned. When I look back at it, I was like, 17, 18, going to and 16 going to Lido Beach. I mean, that's crazy, and I think for the most part, my parents knew most of that, but the freedom that we had was just insane,
Well, I was confused because your oldest sister seemed like very by the book, do what P's and Q's, what mom and dad want. And then you seem like you were doing like straight A's, doing good at everything, but also you wanted to hang out and be in the life with your peers. And that was kind of the thing. It's like, but you had to sneak out. And we were just like, they stopped caring. We get the golden pass. Like, oh, I understand. You had to navigate to get out here tonight. I guess.
Oh yeah, it was a struggle, but I was getting straight A's, but I did that in secret because I didn't tell them. They didn't know what grades I was getting because I don't know. For me, that's kind of how I stuck it to the man, was by doing really well. I still do that. I'll do really well, and I won't tell anybody that I'm doing, because that, I don't know, there's some kind of rebellion in that for me. So they had no idea how well I was doing. So they were like trying to restrict me, thinking that I was doing badly or whatever. And I just
pull up a straight A report card and push them away like it's the
they never knew what grades I was making until I got into all the colleges that I had applied to go to. And they just had no idea. They didn't even encourage me to go to college, nothing. So it wasn't, I think that they were just overwhelmed by being in a different country, and they couldn't control, me. Sam was only there for a year, so
Okay.
she left, and she was in college. But it was just hard. It was hard for my parents, I think, to be in a country like, I immediately learned the language because that's how we had, us military kids had to do it, but my mom couldn't do that. So, it must have sucked for her in a way, but I was living it. I was living the life because I knew that this was it. I was going to have this chance for 3 years and that's it. So I did everything I wanted to do. And Mr. Hakeem, I think, also helped, a lot of us. We saw so much stuff. And my mom, I think I remember her saying just a few years ago, because she lives here in Huntsville too, and she was saying, why didn't we go to the churches? Why didn't we go to and the whole time we were there in Italy, I was like, you guys should go to Verona. You guys should go to, and they just didn't. And now she looks back and she's like, what the hell was I doing sitting at home? But
it's funny. People are, I don't know, limited belief structure, I call it. It's like, oh, well, we could, but I can't, but I have a PTA meeting, or we're going to we're catching a movie on Post tonight at 7. We're going to go eat dinner at the snack bar.
Right. Because they just, but they didn't have, we had so many resources in each other, so we could, if I didn't know where to go, you were there, whereas, my parents had, who were they going to ask, Well,
that's the thing. It's like there's people that I would be ambassador for or help them because I spoke Italian and I lived there the longest. And I realized probably later, maybe 10th grade or so, start realizing, oh, this is the thing that people need or whatever, so I would do that. On Post, everybody was everybody. Nothing mattered. Everybody was, hey, it's just another base. Nobody needs anybody special hookup. Whatever is whatever here. But I don't know. We used to throw the parties, Mark and I don't know if you remember the bridge parties.
Oh, yeah. I remember those. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we used to, I don't think you ever went to any of our pool parties. Mark and I used to do that. I don't know what your parents had you do in the summer. Did you work summer hire? Or did you go out of town usually to France?
There was one summer that I worked summer hire. It was the worst thing ever. Yeah. But on the ones that I wasn't working summer hire, I don't know. We just went around, did whatever. I would just travel. I'd just walk or catch a bus or catch the train, or that's what I should have been doing instead of this silly summer hire garbage. But
I would use that money from summer hire to run away and take off and go live down in Pisa, down on the beach, and go sleep in the dunes. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Weren't you a lifeguard back then? You were a lifeguard.
Yeah, I was lifeguarding. I lifeguarded for probably 4 or 5 years. I forget how many. It was quite a few.
Yeah.
And then I used to train the lifeguards before I left.
Yeah.
I was training the GIs for the bases. So
that would be fun, lifeguarding. This is my daughter.
I know. That's the chef.
There's the chef.
See? There's a wonderful chef.
All right, scramola. Right? It's hard to get them to.
A podcaster. See, she has a podcast fever. I could tell.
Yeah. Well, when I start my so this'll when I start my podcast, I'm gonna have my kids featured heavily because we we study together. Come on in here.
I was trying to get in the screen.
Come on, get down here.
Say hi to your mom's classmates. They're going to be watching this.
Yeah, she's 10.
Everyone that she went to high school with. Has she met any of your classmates?
I don't think so. We talk to, there's some people that I talk to all the time on Zoom, but I don't think any of them were from Vicenza.
Maybe.
I don't know. Which
one? The person that said she had a person recording her or whatever. The one that said I love you.
Oh, no. She was from Virginia. I do have a friend that I knew in kindergarten, and I talk to him all the time, which is it's crazy.
My dad was your mom's PE teacher.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's how far back this is. So my dad was a teacher at the school that your mom went to when she was your age or a year older.
Yeah, and so I wanted to get the kids to be able to go to that school, but we couldn't do it because of security. And so, so I just made our own school because
So now you teach your own version of Vicenza High School
yeah,
in Alabama.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the schools here were just not, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I made us a VHS down here.
That's
And
perfect.
it's done pretty well. We've done
It has like 20 kids in it.
yeah, 30, I think. 30 kids
How
total.
long did it take for that to happen for the parents to find you? They go, we want some of that VHS level education.
Very, I mean,
it used to be a different homeschool, but then that homeschool fell apart.
yeah, so I had to
And
sue.
we took over.
I had to take it. So it started small and well, I don't know. I was teaching 11 classes at the time. So, all right, sweetie, scramble.
11 classes.
Yeah.
Terrible.
So, and anyway, it went through a couple of hands, and then finally I took it over because it needed to be taken over. But the kids today, they learn differently than we did. So,
What would you say is so different then? Because we didn't have all the computers and the laptops and phones and
well,
Zoom and Sam and whatever.
I don't know if it's because of laptops and computers and stuff or what, but kids these days don't have to study things like we did. Like we had to, I mean,
Memorize.
I had to memorize, study, work really hard, all this stuff. Oh, go.
The chef.
Right, you're gonna have to leave. You're gonna have to leave then if you can't behave. But the kids at the school that I'm running, you just tell them one time and they've got it. So there's no memorization needed. They don't need to study. They don't need to. And I think that's just do
they use Google or do they use Chat GPT or are they cheat coding? Because the big thing when we were kids, Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes, that's right. Yeah, Cliff Notes.
Remember? You buy Cliff Notes. Someone's like, I'm going to sell Cliff Notes. I'm a notes taker. Like,
yeah, so
you're going to read the Cliff Notes, and it's like, what?
Well, and the kids, these kids, they want to learn. They want to learn and they want to understand, and they just kind of learn on their own. And if I bring in, whatever I want to teach them, economics or trading, I teach trading.
Functional, usable stuff.
Yes, it's all utilitarian stuff. But I mean, reading Odysseus, that's utilitarian. That if you understand classical literature, then life gets easy. I'll just tell them that. I'm like, listen, if you learn this, your life will be easy. If you don't learn this, your life is going to suck. So you decide. So we don't grade them. We just you decide if you want to learn this or not. And then they choose to learn it. And so they're incredible kids. The only thing I can't get some of them to learn is cursive. And
cursive is hard to teach kids these days because they're not using the hand.
They never write. They're always on computers. So,
yeah,
but
signing my own signature, sometimes I find myself going, whoa. Like the handwriting muscles have kind of dissipated over time.
Atrophied. Yeah.
And then the memorization is atrophied like crazy because the damn cell phone, like, oh, this chip will hold all the things I need to know. I used to be able to remember like 36 phone numbers, even international numbers in my head.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I went to the phone. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, most of these kids don't have computers or phones. I think some of them just got phones recently because the people who I have come into the school are ones, I tell them, we don't do electronics. We don't do phones. Everything is in person. We do, because I'm trying to teach them to understand how to relate, because that's one of the biggest problems when we have kids from, normal public schools that come in. They're usually pretty screwed up. They can't function very well socially and they've never been told to figure out what they want to do on their own. They've always been told exactly what to do. So when I say, hey, if you want to learn this, cool. If you don't want to learn it, the kids that are from a public school, they won't learn it because they're like, yeah, oh, cool. I don't have to do it. And so it takes them a while to finally realize that their life is going to suck if they don't learn this stuff, and they become self-motivated. That said, my son, who is turning 18 this month, he decided to go to a public school up here for the last 3 or 4 years. It was a phenomenal school. It was very good. And then he quit, and he's back at my school, and he's starting to teach, which is awesome. He teaches math, but it took him about 3 months to remember how to decide when he wakes up in the morning what he's going to do. What are you going to do with your day today? What do you want to learn today? When we planned our school year, we decide what are we going to learn this year? Which books are we going to read? And we do it together. And then we create the schedule. And then that was really hard for him. But now he's finally caught on. So yesterday, I guess this week, he woke up, he came over. This is my art studio that I'm sitting in. Mm-hmm. He came over, he got a bunch of felt, and he decided to design a character. And he figured out how to sew a sphere, and he created this little character and got it finished. He came back the next morning at 8 a.m, and finished it. And finally, so it's just like finally he's got it again, where he decides what he's going to do with his time, and he does something with it, because a lot of kids will, when they're in a environment, they do reactively. They don't say, what do I want to do today? It's like, what are you telling me to do today?
They're accepting the matrix, basically. Yeah. We're going to put the food feeding machine in your mouth, press the button, like when they're in the pods, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. When he has to go extract the person from being in the pod, whenever, that second matrix. That's the visual.
To teach these kids what we need today. So, the only thing that's going to be in existence when they get older is going to be AI and computing and computer languages and finance and trading and anything that you can build with your hands.
What was once outlawed during the past weird few years, learn to code. It's such a horrible thing to say, but such a functional, listen, if the world's all machines, if the hardware, it's like, okay, chop wood to build houses. If that's all there is where you got, that's the main trade you need to learn. If you live in a world surrounded by robots and satellites and stuff, you better learn to code.
That's right. So that's what we teach is we teach that stuff. And we do have some teachers who, I've got some teachers that will come and teach history and, things that they love, which is fine, because, you can't not have your cultural literacy, but we teach them how to sew, how to knit, how to build, how to repair appliances, how to code AI, how to understand different computing languages, day trading, investing, that kind of thing. But we don't waste our time with a lot of stuff that they won't need. And I can't even think of the things that they won't need. But we teach them to cook. It's all practical stuff.
Sounds like a lot of critical thinking, which is really essential to survival, to me. I mean, that's like
it is. It's like
it's like a gym for your brain, and you're working on all the different muscles.
Right. We're not going to talk about all the philosophers and who they were, and I mean that's great. They can learn that in college if they want to, but you need to know how to fix your socks, or how to sew a dress, or how to
get credit, do your taxes. Yeah.
How to pay your taxes, how to grow food, how to how does this predatory capitalist system work, and where do you fit in?
A lot of people wouldn't think about this stuff. It used to be so automatic that people thought, during our era, mom and dad thought, hey, Len, Kira, go to college, get a 4-year degree, get a great career path, or marry a guy, that's got means, have a bunch of kids, but you'll meet him in that college because that's where the best husbands are, because they get those good jobs. And
it's a club.
Happily ever after. This is the old system, right? The old system. When we were kids, our parents were one job their whole life. My dad was actually a Marine officer, and then he became a teacher,
Right.
a coach and all that. So he'd been college to the Marines to teaching, right?
Hmm.
And he had a really big sports job in New England before he came to. He gave up a higher paying, more high status, like director of athletics for a bunch of schools in New England to come just to be a coach because he was a jock. He wanted to be next to the sports. So you it's like with you being in charge, the art admissions director, and it's all office work, but you're an artist and you want to be painting,
right,
teaching the class in person, right? So that's the analogy. But they were one thing. I think I've been 27, 38, 42 different things in my life.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Swiss Army knife of a human being. You can't just be a fork. He was a fork for 60 years. Retired.
I remember my dad telling me, Dad said, hey, work isn't so bad. When you're 40, you get to retire. And I was like, 40? Oh my God, your life is half over. What? And here I am. People don't retire these days. It's not going to happen. Because
retirement is a slow death because you lose your sense of purpose. And, I have a friend that's like, I can't wait to retire. He works for Intel. He's like, can't wait to retire because I've already been there. Can't wait to retire because then it'll be endless golf. I go, endless golf? Good for you. Endless friggin' golf. Let me tell you, dude, you're like the guy that's got the munchies right now. Tell me how you're going to tear up the buffet, but by your second or third key lime pie, you're done.
You're going to be sick of it.
You're never going to want to go back to the Golden Corral ever again after if you go out at 2
Corral. It's hilarious. That's how heaven is, Golden Corral. Yeah.
I've never eaten there, but I just seen it advertised, and it's the perfect visual.
Yeah. Even because I've thought about it after my kids have graduated, the school, I think probably Xander's going to start working there, and it's been growing. I've been making sure it grows really slow, but after COVID, people have been really trying to they realize there's something wrong, with the school systems right now. So
what would you do? Like, let me give you an example. My brother has my nephew, his son, he's going to school in Italy. He's studying abroad in Italy. He's living our life. He's 18. He's going to discos. He's going to Oktoberfest. He's going to Ibiza. I mean, he's doing all the stuff that your frat party is going to seem pretty darn boring once you get back to the States. We go to keg, brother. We're like, go to keg.
Right,
dude, I was dancing with like these runway models in Milan, and you want to hang out with a keg in this room with this wet carpet that Bobby threw up. Gross. But I'm just saying, like, after you get a taste for it, right? The cultural experience. But the whole point is this, and I agree with him. Sean just wants him to grow up and feel that freedom that we had. And that's the only way that you could really do it. So if you could launch all your kids in that direction, that would be the only way.
That'd be awesome. I think it's great because, if you have some autonomy in your life, even if it's just autonomy to go to a discotheque, you can get on, you go with your friends, you meet, you get on a bus, you go to the discotheque. Whereas, here, what are they going to do? These kids, all of my son's friends are driving, but where are they going to go? So they go to a coffee shop.
Piggly Wiggly, the Blue.
They go to a coffee shop. There's
Bluebell
clubs
coffee
down here, but these clubs are not. I don't know what the difference is between an American club and where we were, but it's terrible.
It's different. It's different because here's what I'll take, because I just went back to Europe and I go, I was trying to talk a friend of mine into traveling more. I told him how it would enrich him, and he's thinking I'm trying to put on airs about this because he's I don't need that stuff. That stuff's all stupid. It's nothing. It's all the same. And I go, that's a pretty ignorant statement, bro, because when you're somewhere else, you think differently.
Yep.
Well, you know where everything is where you live. When you drive here to home, and you know where the 7-Eleven, you even know where they put the candy bars in the store subconsciously. You know where the ice is at. You know where the gas station is.
You can be
your little world is this little circle right here. I go, I drop you in the middle of Barcelona, and it's a bustling city. You're like, I wonder where I find a place to get a hamburger or a steakhouse, or I need to find groceries, or where's a pharmacy?
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe we were just in new places constantly when we were there.
Well, the problem-solving element. It's a foreign country. It's a different thing. Remember you go to some little town, and it didn't have neon signs like McDonald's And
I
all
know
these,
there was no signs. I loved that. So
right,
I remember we went to a field trip in Bologna,
right.
and we had to walk to find a place to eat. And I remember there was the bridge, the bridge in town, and there was like one place to eat. And then I walked all over town. So I was like, I'm not
You're
eating
talking
there.
about Bologna or Bassano? Was it Bassano del Grappa where the bridge went over the river? Is that what you're talking about?
Was it
Like the hooded,
Bassano?
like
I think you're right. I think it was Bassano.
it's probably Bassano because we would go there on a field trip,
Yeah,
and
I think
Hakeem
it
used
was
to take us
Bassano.
there. So, yeah.
So yeah, we went there a couple times, but I mean, the next time I knew, I was like, oh, this is the only place to eat, unless I like go all the way to the other side of town. But there was no signs. Like I don't even know how we found these places, but
You'd see a table, just a wood table
yeah,
with
you
like a
see
couple
it's
chairs sitting
oh,
outside on the sidewalk. You're like,
yeah.
is that a restaurant?
Yeah,
Or is that a
that's right.
you got
Yeah.
to walk up close to it? Is that a
And it was
tabacceria? Is
always
that
everything was a mystery, and everything was, you always had to just find your way. And eventually, I think we all grew in like a radar. Like you drop me into an Italian town now, I'll be able to find my way around because you just can tell. I don't know. There's just something you can smell your way or something. I don't know. But
well, it's so different. Like Lisa Rolick was one of my first podcasters, big hit on here, and she went back with her husband, and he's from Nebraska, so he's not like adapting to it the way she is. He's not seeing things from her perspective because he's a statesider 100.
yeah,
He's like, they need a barbecue joint around, and she's like, what? So that kind of thing, right?
Wow.
And we'd see that with other Americans that just arrived there or
Yeah.
never went off post or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not his fault. It's where you grow up. So
right. Yeah. You just know if you've been there, if you were there for a long enough time, you just know. You could try, drop any one of us off in the middle of Venice. We would find our way to the piazza because we would just know. You just can follow the traffic, the foot traffic.
That's the thing. It gets intuitive, but it's changed so much that she stayed there with her husband, and she said it was dangerous to go downtown Vicenza at night. There's people with machetes and gangs that will attack and rob and kill people. And there's so many people because it's all these countries like Syria and Africa. And remember, the wall was up, so all the Eastern Bloc countries didn't swarm on Italy either. When we grew up in Italy, it was all Italy.
That's true. That's what Bruno. I think I talked to Bruno. I can't remember his last name. Anyway, he on Facebook all the time, and he was saying that was the case, that you can't go down there by yourself anymore, which is crazy. Yeah. I mean, but that is part and parcel of the switch to the Aquarian age, which is the thing that I gave the lecture about last week, because people are scared. So that's why I give these lectures, because they want to know what happens during a change of the ages. And the age, this change started December 21st, 2020. Mm-hmm. And it becomes official, like this Easter is like, we're going to be in full swing this Easter. And the changes are going to happen so fast over the next 20 years. People are going to be really, really freaked out.
Well, that's what some people don't know, but you do astrology. And
that's right. Yes. I'm an astrologer. I'm a professional astrologer, and I give lectures and talks about ancient symbols. That's my specialty. And what those symbols and what those ancient stories that have been encoded in the stars tell us. And
so you can backtrack circumstance. You can look at history through the stars and kind of interpret this led to this, to this, to this, kind of like a dot to dot.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cycle. It's just like any other mathematical cycle. You get a math cycle. It's very easy. For example, Neptune is going into Aquarius like next week or something. And when Neptune, not Aquarius, Aries. And when Neptune goes into Aries, we have civil wars. So 5 years ago, I called a friend of mine who from college, he's a Civil War expert. That's what he's a LSU professor. And And I said, hey, so the stars are telling me that we're going to have a civil war in about 5 years. What do you think about this currently? How do you feel like do you think that's crazy? And he said, oh, no, that's not going to happen. We're not going to, that's not possible. And he listed the reasons why. This is his job. So he listed it. This isn't happening. That's not happening. This not happening. I took notes, and then I contacted him about a year ago and I said, how about now? And he goes, you were right. He said, oh my God, I cannot believe this has happened. This was just, I remember we talked. I said, that's why I contacted you. I just wanted to, discuss. And so we have had a standing date to get back online and discuss the differences.
I've had a few occasions in my life where people have told me things that were astrologers and they ended up being true. And so a lot of people might think, oh, whatever, because it might be outside your comfort zone or something you haven't delved into. But a lot of people don't know that. What do you think every great ruler and, great president or general, a lot of people consult an astrologer because there's nobody above them. Like, who do you talk to when you're in charge of the whole tribe?
Well, 99% of astrologers don't know what they're doing because astrology is mathematical.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it looks like a quack thing if you talk to all those that aren't good at it.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's like different masseuses I go to can fix things, but most of them can't.
Yeah. So
Same
you
thing.
have to find one that knows that actually, and it's a complicated subject. So
if someone just surface on it,
huh?
If someone's just too surface about it, like, because the goat's talking to the archer guy, and that means that you should buy a new car. You're like, what? I don't understand. Thanks.
Yeah. So it takes some study. You have to find someone who has really studied. But it's not like just only I knew that this. All the real astrologers, we've all known that this was coming. This is something we discuss in our, secret cabal meetings or whatever we discuss. And we knew this 20 years ago because the cycles. There's 100. The cycle of Neptune in Aries, for example, is 168 years. So if you take, give or take, 15 years, because sometimes the planets go backwards. It's a there's a retrograde motion. But if you go back 168 years, you're going to find hyperinflation of our money system and civil strife, civil war. In fact, it was our civil war. And then if you go back 168, plus or minus 6 years before that, you get to the 9 Years' War in Europe, where all of Europe is their money's hyperinflating, and they're all fighting each other. And then you just go back 168 years and it's the same. It's very predictable.
You could also go look at Freud and look at in human behavior, any sociology, and look at it from a historic perspective. Well, let's see. When was the time where everyone just laid back and ate marshmallows and fed each other marshmallows and patted each other on the head and everybody was happy? When was that? Never. Because it's always been about the haves, the have-nots, scarcity, jealousy, envy, some of the things that are just part of humans, and the warring side of human beings. Right. These cycles are going to repeat. And it's like, well, I'll stop the war. Okay, let's say, here we're going off on this. Whoever's watching this podcast, like, watch out. They're going to go too crazy on this. I'll come back to Vicenza. But, I really think that, let's say that the war stops today. It's in the talks. They're going to cease fire, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but what's going to pop up in its place? And what's going to pop, hey, we're not getting enough this. We're, what's the tariff war going to start? It's like everything's a cause and effect. Right. And it's about scarcity. It's about FOMO, fear of missing out. It's about, we want what they have. And, there's so many things going on. And we're just living at a time where it's all kind of coming to a head, I think.
Yeah, it is. We've got super cycles coming to where lots of different planetary cycles are coming all at the same time. And so we're going to have to hope that it's not too incredibly disruptive, but, we know that the monetary system is going to have to be revamped, and that will be disruptive. AI has come.
It's already starting.
It's like the new printing press. All this, kids, like I was saying, they don't learn like we did. They memorize, and they kind of are they can kind of transmit to each other ideas without really talking. It's crazy. They're different, these kids.
I saw that with autistic
Oh,
kids specifically. The psychic experiment where they were communicating. I was watching a show on that. People might think like, oh, if this is outside of the way you grew up, that's okay. I'm not judging anybody on anything. But
yeah.
I'm like open-minded to stuff because I don't know. I know this is the Cougarland podcast. It's got nothing to do with Vicenza. I don't think we ever talked about any astrology or any conspiracy
Hey,
theories or
some
any of this.
variety.
And none of us ever talked about politics.
Yeah.
And today, some people would butt heads if they knew whatever jersey, whose team anybody's on. And I'm like, let's just remember all of us before we gave a damn about any politics. All we wanted is a panino, or we wanted a margarita pizza. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
We were
a big
diagramming.
meter beer from the cab. You know?
Yeah, that's right. Oh, those were the days, weren't they? That was fun. It was fun, but there was some. I don't know. It was a little directionless sometimes, and
No, you were kind of like just. I saw you were just floating around. Wee! It's like that's how I remember you.
Yeah.
You're like, you could have been mistaken for an airhead because people weren't on your level seeing what you were. So you were taking in a lot of information. You were really going into the vibe. I can see it now that I'm grown up. But as a kid, I'm like, wow, you're just flying around like a kite. But yet you had straight A's and your art was awesome. I'm like, so she's not stupid. So she's somewhere else, wherever she is. I don't know where that is yet. I haven't grown up and thought about it. You know what I mean? As a grown up.
I haven't thought about it. Where was I? I was. We were just in the art center of the world. The most beautiful place in the world. That's where we were.
Have you taken any of your kids back there or been back there with your family since?
I haven't taken them. I don't, again, we're so, I think, working plus raising kids.
Yeah.
Even though I have my kids with me for the most part when I'm working, it's just, I cannot see how people do it. I don't know how anyone goes anywhere. Honestly, I don't. But
how far do you guys go for a vacation? How far away?
Oh, well, not far. Yeah, we go to the Gulf and we go to the beach for a couple of weeks, and that's for me. I think for me, going to the beach, like if they said it would be a hard choice, if they said go to like Venice or go to the beach, I would be like, well, maybe I ought to go to Venice. But I love going down to the Gulf Coast. Like it is such a retreat.
Here it's very pretty. Very pretty white sand, right?
It's just, yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's the best. It's the best. And I've been, just like you, I've been everywhere. Right. And it's just the best place. So
I didn't expect what I got here in North Carolina. The water looks like it's Miami. It's that, aquamarine Gatorade colored.
It's gorgeous up
water,
there.
warm swimming. And I'm like, wait a second, because I live in California. Now, California, where that wins, like I usually stay close to like Laguna Beach and different areas. Beautiful, beautiful. You're looking down a mountain. It's like a cliff. It's like there's here flat. There you get the cliffs framing in the picture. So it's like a beautiful painting. They're both beautiful paintings, but this one has the most dynamic frame. Or this one has a little less painting, but the frame makes it kick so much more ass than
I remember Montana when I drove through. Montana I was like, we got to remember, this is the most beautiful place I have ever been in my life. I remember going through, just driving through, and it was astounding. I mean, every place has its amazing places, but I am addicted to the beach. I am addicted to the beach. It is awesome. Oh, dude, there were so many sharks last year down at the beach. My daughter, we started getting used to them. Actually, people were like waving, "Get out of the water, shark!" So we got, but there was 5 minutes
fire drill every 5 minutes. Like I would just bring a drone and go like skim.
I don't even know if I want to know, because there have been times we've known sharks are in the water and we're just like, screw it, we're going in. And my daughter was playing in the shallows last year, and a shark swam by her 3 feet away. And she hopped out, and one went right next to my feet while I was walking in the. And so I'm getting a little bit more wary of it. Like, you think, they won't bite you. But if they do, you don't have an arm anymore. So, besides that, that's the only thing that's kind of tainting my my love of the beach. I think that it's well, and where we go, there's like no people, like nobody is there, which is awesome. That's going to change. People are building houses all around there now. So
Well, that's like where I live. It's they have the inlet and then they have the beach, the island, right? The island's like 27 miles long, Topsail Island,
yeah,
and the houses go this way, so you can only park so many cars parallel. There's no wide, big movie theater parking lot to like
right,
storm the beach, and they're
right.
going to charge you during the day. So if you go there in the evening, you're okay. So what
Yeah.
it does is it's always like just a few people and you. I mean, you
Right,
can find a more crowded section near like where the restaurants are in one area, focused area.
Right.
But
Yeah,
I mean, a few blocks down, a mile down, nobody's there.
yeah,
And so you can always find your own little private beach.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. I've been to places where we stayed at the Outer Banks. That's like a really, well-known upper end like vacation spot in North Carolina. And the beach was so small because the erosion, it's out in the middle of the Atlantic, it's further out in the water,
Mhm.
way further
Yeah.
out than this is. So the sand, we go, my wife and I go, let's go down to the beach. We go down there and every spot on the beach is taken up by, those square tent things that just,
Oh yeah, yeah. That you can rent or whatever. Yeah,
well, they look like they have them at NASCAR when people put their cooler and their little
Yeah.
chair in there. So it was like marked up like bingo spots. Like every piece on the card was taken. You couldn't lay in between two people's like, umbrella. 'Cause
right.
they
Yeah,
have those
no.
square umbrella tent things,
Yeah.
right?
Well, I
So-
mean, there'll be fewer at the beach coming up because nobody can afford to go because of all the.
Yeah. Well,
economics.
in my case, I think I'll see more of them, even though Airbnb is ridiculous. I mean, people spend $12,000 a week to stay out at the beach.
Crazy.
And they'll go like 4 families together in one of these big houses. That's how they do it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I met a classmate, Jan from Vicenza. She was there, I think, before you came. And I met her when I first came to North Carolina. They were just right across from the hotel I was staying at. And they were staying at a luxurious place. It was $16,000 a week, I think. But it was a whole family reunion. It had elevators. It was like 6,000 square
Wow.
feet. It was a monstrosity right on the sand with a pool. I'm like,
Wow.
damn, dude. I sure as heck wouldn't, I go by myself. I would never swing that kind of dollar bill for any of these places just because
Right.
it's just over the top. But
Yeah.
I
Not
think-
by yourself. I mean, you have to have a bunch of people, right?
yeah.
So-
And if you get a big family, you're like, well, we could get this many hotel rooms, the 2 kids here. And I'm like, no, forget that. Let's just get the Airbnb. I think that's the way for you guys to go. Do you guys have like a special place that you stay all the time, or is it just like whatever
We
you see?
did for a while, but we're switching this year because we had this house right on the beach, and the houses next door, any large houses that were next door were blown away by a hurricane at some point. So there was nothing there for years, and so you could go out on the beach at any time of the day or night, and it was completely desolate, which was astounding. We have seen several weird UFO type things in that area.
That's cool.
Which, yeah, it was very interesting. I don't know what to think about that stuff yet, but we decided to move to another one down the way that has a pool because of the number of sharks that we saw last year.
Yeah,
Or
that's
definitely-
the trade-off, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm going out to visit some friends in California. The place we're staying has a big bunch of pools. I'm like, great, because I don't really enjoy swimming in the California frozen water. It's a polar
Right, yeah.
plunge all year round. You have
Yeah.
to get down to the border of San Diego going into Mexico to get
Yeah,
warm water because
Yeah.
the Pacific stays cold all the way up to the north.
Yeah,
like,
that sucked.
time.
When I was in Seattle, we went to the beach, which was covered in rocks, and it was just like getting into ice water. It's like, forget it. What am I
jumping
doing
in
here?
a cold German Alpine river.
Yeah, like, why am I here? So I didn't do that more than once, but going through the mountains was incredible, of course. But no beach. That was the big drawback of the Northwest. It was astounding. It was the most stunning environment, but no beach. So you have to be able to do both. So I'm looking forward to Insta travel, where we can just beam from the Northwest to maybe.
So you're hoping that Star Trek people come up with one of those tubes.
as
right?
quickly as possible. Yes.
There's
Yeah.
VR. You could just put on the headset and
Yeah.
It's not quite the same. You're like, oh, I'm there. This is hurting my head. Oh, my head hurts. My eyes, but like the question I have for you is, what were some of your big takeaways from living in Italy that have, influenced your life ever since?
I think the biggest, I mean, for me, it was architecture, right? So, um, and understanding that where you live is important. Like we kind of touched on this earlier, but
Walkable
it's
living, right?
walkable, beautiful. Any place that you build should be beautiful. There is no reason to build something ugly in a town, and yet we're doing it all over. And a lot of people who haven't traveled don't know that beautiful places exist. They've never been there, but except for nature. Here in the United States, we have incredible nature. But
Yeah.
our buildings tend to be as cheap as we can make them. And I tell my kids, like, we're driving around and I'll be like, "Oh my God, that's a church. Like, that is a church." They've how do you know that's not Walmart? And the difference, "Oh, there's no sign, Mom. There's no sign. That's how we know it's not Walmart." I was like, "Hey, that is not good for the soul to me as someone, I love architecture, and architecture, it has to do, it's important to be able to reside, to even just to visit a place that is made in geometric perfection, which is what they did with the cathedrals in Europe. They geometrically, if you study the geometry of these cathedrals, they were meant to heal you because the math worked right, because the math is from that logarithmic natural math. It's like being in a forest. When you see all those pillars, these are trees. This is a forest, and it's built in the natural math, because if they didn't build it in the natural math, it would have fallen down. So you had to use the math of nature. Otherwise, it won't stand up. But we don't have to do that anymore. So we have these big square steel buildings, made of crap, and we put a cross on it and say it's church. Well, for me, being in Italy, we felt good. There was the good feeling. I think it's because of the geometry of the place. It's the houses were built a long time ago, so they had to follow that natural math. That's very important for people. It's important to live in what seems like a natural environment. And nowadays, when you don't have to have math keeping your buildings up, you can have steel keeping your buildings up instead. We can build all kinds of horrible monstrosities. A lot of the architecture of modern architects is just, very disturbing. You think of an Escher painting where they've got doors in the wrong places and stairs that go up for no reason, and that's why they're haunted houses, and they're what do you call those crooked houses that are, funny houses.
This has to be the deepest answer on what you took away from Italy. People are like, I want pizza. See you later.
No, it was the architecture. And, I think that the architect, and that was what I was so interested in when I was there, is why when I go into the cathedral, we went to Milan, was it Milan? I think it was Milan. We went to a cathedral there as a field trip with our
a big one there, yeah.
Yeah, and it's got the blue ceiling and the stars on the ceiling. And I studied that architecture, as hard as I could while we were there. And I was like, why is it when you walk into this building, all of a sudden you feel serene and relieved, and like all your problems can be handled? And why does this building have the effect on us that it does? And we would all come out of there and go, phew, okay, let's go get some lunch, because it had a big effect. And it wasn't just because it was covered in blue paint and gold. It was and so I studied that for years after that. And it was the math. It's because it is a natural logarithmic math. So that study brought me to, well, what else is natural logarithmic? Well, anything natural is this math. So the flight of birds, the moles on your body, where the moles are located, has to do. There's a math involved. Your skeleton. You can actually overlay the human skeleton on the cathedrals of Europe if you overlay them in a certain way. And this was like some big discovery recently because people had never tried this. But they are perfectly matched to the human body. And of course, the ancient people knew what they were doing. But we forgot, for a long time.
Interesting. See, none of us picked that up except you. Interesting. See, that's where you were. You were out like looking at stuff. I'm like, where's the beer?
Where'd she go?
Look at this building. I feel serene. I'm like, is there beer behind this building?
Maybe not. Yeah. But that's why. And so that's why I went to Rome. When I went to Rome, to the Vatican to look at the biggest, most incredible cathedral, I was like, that's it. I'm never leaving. I told them I'm not leaving. I was like, I'm going to be a nun. I want to be a nun here. I am never going to leave. And they said, you can't do that. You have to leave. You cannot be a nun. You have to be able to be a nun there. You have to get a college degree first. And I was like, what the hell? Why? What the hell?
By the time that happens, I won't be interested. No, but
That's
it's fun.
right. I was like, 4 years. I'm not leaving.
They had a quick questionnaire, Kira. They said, quick question for you, Kira. Number 1, do you go to discotheque? Okay, yes.
Yeah, yes,
you know Len Dempsey and Mark Parkins? Oh, bad news. Sorry. Oh,
That's
you
right.
party in the North 40? Boom. Sorry, Mario says no. Okay. No, none for you.
Yeah.
That, I could see that, right?
None for me. So yeah, I left there, but then I continued to study that, that stuff. And that's where I got the astrology from, was when I realized it was all geometric, that all of this has got to do with the Platonic solids and geometry. So I'm still there. I'm still studying it.
Okay, so since you're so deep into the astrology and geometry and all these things, the people that we went to school with, they're such unique characters, or it's just a form, when you're building your brain, when you're kind of like building the base of the database of life, of the experiences, and you're growing, you're maturing. So many significant people went to school with us, or they're significant to me. I'm so impressed about what people were able to accomplish from that school, how smart they are, how worldly they are.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of very there's big military people. There's like female admirals, female generals that went to our school. There's a whole bunch of male generals. One of them is running, Italy, Europe now. It's like, so the people that run shit went to our school. Yeah. And then there's like a bunch of smart business people, a bunch of just good people that grew up, and you can have intelligent conversations with pretty much all of them. So it's like
very successful people.
And these were the people that were put in your movie of life. Like we all came together. Yeah. Now we're on the podcast. We're characters. Like, remember the sitcom we were on in Vicenza? Like we're all meeting up behind the scenes, 30 something years later. That's kind of how I see it.
Well, I mean, when you study art, you find out that Picasso and all these guys, all these great artists, they all just happen to know each other. Right. There was some lady who no one knew she was a genius photographer until she was dead for like 50 years. And they found all of her photographs in a box. And they started publishing them, and they're like, holy crap, this lady was a genius. She was alive in the 50s. And it just so happens that she ran into Dali, who worked with Disney, Walt Disney. And she ran into him at a store and took some photos, and he took, and so it's like these people run into each other. And so all the people who were at Vicenza, I think we have like we shared cooties, or we have a flavor,
There's something unique about it, because I'm talking to you now as a grown up, but it's no different to me really. As I knew you as a kid, and it's like, what are you doing this week? Are you going to the cab this weekend? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Oh, wait, you have kids. Oh, wait, you have a whole bunch of kids in the school. Oh, okay. Something's changed. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's if it weren't for that,
I'd get your errands done this weekend to come down to the cab. You're going to be.
Yeah, we're just busier. But, I'm the same as I always was. I think we just have a broader view of the world, maybe. I talked to Marca Dickey, and he's in Sicilia or
Sardinia.
Sardinia. Thank you. Yeah. He's in Sardinia, and he always said he was going to be a professional golfer. That's what he does. I've spoken to a few others, and they're all doing something, that takes a lot of imagination, and I think we just had we have a broader view of the world. Uh,
Well, it's
generally.
like, what about your civilian friends compared to your Vicenza friends? Like, what's the difference? There's a distinct difference.
There is a difference. My civilian friends, I talked to two of them last week. One of them lives in California, but he's kind of living in a trap. And then I have another one a friend from civilian friend from Virginia, and neither of these are military brats, and she lives the same way. In fact, and she kind of just lives in a trap. She's been in the trap for 30 some odd years, and she's comfortable in that trap. And then other friends from that same era, and they all live in traps, like where they're trapped by company.
The trap, by trap, do you mean like a small life, like a
Yeah,
very
they
small
just
circle?
like for 30 years they feel like they have to be very still and don't and
Walk
just
out of the cell, go over to the mess
go
hall,
to their work,
go to the
and then
gym,
go back
come to the cell. Boom, boom,
yes,
boom,
that's
boom.
what they do. And when I say, hey, there's you could, why don't you try this? Or they're like, no, 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 no. Like, don't teach me anything. No, 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 I'm good. So, I enjoy them. I still, we talk, and I enjoy them quite a bit. But they, and some of them have a very beautiful cell, but they,
But some people will sell out for a beautiful cell. They'll say, listen, we can let you out of jail, but how about we put a luxury supreme Serta adjustable bed with cooling on it and an 80-inch screen in your cell? They're like, well,
yeah.
For that much, I won't venture anywhere. I want the big TV so bad.
Yeah.
It's like
One of them,
committed to
their life is kind of like that. If you just sit still for 30 years, we'll pay you to sit still for 30 years. And she was like, all right. And that's what she's done. So, and another one worked for a big company, and then got married, I think, to someone he probably wasn't well matched to. And he has, just been very still. He just, if you stay still. And I think that's, in a way, that American life, that's kind of what you're taught. I mean, I could be wrong here. I mean, I don't know. But
we're not out of the box. We're not out of the sin. We had something injected into our mindset and our experience, our senses. I mean, sure, there's probably some alumni that would live what you interpret to be as that. There's a lot of people that have no limits. There's some people, like I talked to somebody, no names mentioned, and he was just like, nah, it wasn't shit. It's the same as any other high school in the States. I go, dude, what are you talking about? How could you compare, Ohio or Kentucky and even California, man?
Well, I mean, some people are lucky.
That autonomy, like you talked about, hopping on the train, going to Venice.
Yeah, that autonomy was insane. Like, I cannot believe, just looking back. And I think I had less autonomy than a lot of you guys did. I was
to get you, come on, Kira, let's go. You'd come out.
Oh, so, it was.
We were like the sirens. You would get off the ship like oh, okay, I'll swim to the rocks.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I was just, I was a bit of a nerd. And I remember not going to some party that was some big party y'all were doing, because I was studying in our school library. There was a record player, and they had records of Old English, and I was listening to Beowulf or something in Old English, and I just was really obsessed. And someone's like, I think Alan was like, come on, we gotta go. Yeah, I was like, I'm not going. I'm not gonna do it. I have no idea where you guys went, and I don't know why the school was open when we were gonna go do something. So. But
there's stuff here's a funny thing. Like, I remember being at a party, and there was a friend of ours, I'm not mentioning his name, but he later told me that he realized in life he had really bad ADHD, because his dad would like, hey son, mow the lawn. He's like, yeah. And then the next day he's like, why the hell did you mow the lawn? The lawnmower's just sitting there, because he forgot about it. He's like, I'm trying to take care of this toast over here. He's like making breakfast. And he put the lawn, thinks, woo, it's gone. And it wasn't because he would have mowed the lawn, but he didn't.
Right.
So we're having a party. We're like, oh, he's a pretty cool guy. He must think he's too cool. So he became cooler than he knew he was, because he didn't show up to the cool events, but he didn't know they were going on. Because Let me take care of this toast.
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and just so, you might have been like, oh, let me finish this. And
I don't know. Yeah, I just got sucked in, and I can't remember where it was. But I mean, I went to enough of the parties that you were probably the one throwing, you and Mark or somebody, that I didn't remember like the feeling that we would have. There was like this, I don't know, this feeling
wild
that
freedom, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like
Where the
we can
wild
do
things
whatever
are.
the hell we want. Yeah, it was really nice. And my kids, I don't think they're going to experience that. Well, I mean, they'll experience it in a different way. So we live out in in a forest. We live. I'm looking over here because I'm looking at the trees over here. We've got.
Mm-hmm.
We live in this forest, and so there's a lot of freedom there, but it's more of a solitary thing. It's my son and my daughter, the two oldest, are very good friends now, and because they're high school friends, we all lived close to the high school, so if we wanted to hang out, we could kind of hang out, if we felt like it. We weren't
I had
that
to ride my bicycle to hang out with you guys and go
Yeah.
to somebody's house in Villagio if they were home or not. But you
Yeah.
guys like, oh, there's someone hanging out at the bus stop, or just ride the bus around until some of your friends get on the bus. There's like
right or
so many
something
ways, like,
we could get, there was transportation for us, whereas, with my son, some of his friends drive, but the parents are like, you're not, no, can I use the car? No. So they can't get together. Even if they did get together, where are they going to go? They end up going to playgrounds for little kids, and they hang out at the picnic tables. That's what they do, which I guess is kind of what North 40 was for us.
The North 40 was symbolic to me. Now it's the North 3, but ever since I was a little kid, like that field was like, it felt like it wasn't on post, but it was on post.
Yeah.
I remember soldiers, they parachuted onto it. Like, hey, there's dudes parachuting across from the school. And then as I became a teenager, that's where we would drink behind the teen club because we were just like, it was a lot of one-upmanship with the boys, a lot of I dare you to. And this I dare you game kept going and going and going, and it never stopped. And things went kind of out of hand. I guess. Did it kill me? No, I'm still here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matter of fact, ironically, like I quit drinking for 20 years. I hardly drink now.
I don't drink.
So it's like, but I was a party animal when I was younger and in the Navy. And then it's like, one day it was just like, and I wasn't going to a bunch of AA meetings or anything. I just like stopped.
Yeah.
Which is ironic.
It was different. When we were in Italy, and we were together, there was a much deeper camaraderie. I mean, I remember it as a very deep camaraderie, like if we were all soulmates in a way.
Yeah.
And then when I came to the States and like particularly at college, and everyone's like, let's go drinking. I'm like, nope, not interested.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, I don't know you people. I'm not interested. I don't know. And then after school, that's what the people who, when we were still single, all they freaking did was go out to clubbing and drinking. I'm like, this is boring. I'm sorry.
It was a novelty for them.
Yeah,
it was a novelty,
yeah.
Pretty much.
I mean, it was a little bit of a wasteland. It's at that time. So I just studied. That's what I studied.
Well,
so
I don't know. I get back into the States, and I was like, oh, nightclubs. Oh, that's what I was in the Navy, so we were wild sailor, lady chasing, drinking sailor guys.
Yeah.
That's what we did. That's all we lived for. We didn't even have our own. We lived on a ship. It was like 3 bunk beds in a your room right there, probably like 25 guys could sleep in there with the way they tighten and rack up the beds.
Yeah.
And no personal space.
Right,
so you're like, okay, I'm gonna get a girlfriend that has an apartment that doesn't live here. Or a whole bunch of them, whatever. Let me see. So we would just always go off base. But the funny part is that was kind of a trap because all military bases, I mean, if you go down here, I live near Camp Lejeune. Right outside the base, there's strip joints, pawn shops. It's the stuff that they get guys to blow their military check on, and big trucks or something to buy or Harley. They get your check and you're done. You're wiped out. The rest of the time that you're in the military, you're paying off these people that get you with their scam. And the woman that would come to those clubs, I'm sorry I sound mean, but for the most part, they were like looking for like, oh, I could marry this guy and get a free apartment and benefits. And that's kind of like how it was then, you know, around the areas I was at, maybe not everywhere, but it was like the sailor beware. So I think 18 of my friends get married and around the same time I did. And I'd say that all 18, except maybe one, get divorced.
Wow.
So 17 of them. Yeah. So it just, by the time we were getting out, so it showed you that none of it was really a real marriage like what I have now, but it's just like, it's like, oh, just, we're all doing this because we think this is what we're supposed to do. It's progression. It's adulthood. There's no forethought. There was we didn't learn about what to do. We didn't learn our taxes. We didn't learn about credit. We didn't learn about marrying the wrong woman. There were so many, or the wrong person, or picking the wrong mate for that matter. We had no idea. A lot of
that's one of the things that we teach at the school. That's one of the things we teach at my school is how do you pick the right person? How do you sort through your friends? And because that's not taught. I mean, why, you know, it would have been great. Think about how much easier your life would have been if you would have been taught about how people think and behave, you know, when we were in high school, if we had known. I mean, we knew each other. We were of a different, I don't know, when I came to the States, things got more complicated. And
well, your friends would get sucked up by UFO. Like I have friends that once they got married, you could never talk to them again because this UFO came in. There goes Bob. We're all at we're all at the, you know, the night before, we're all at the campfire drinking beer, like, yeah, freedom forever. And then Bob, like, well, I met Sally at the bowling alley and bye, guys, bye. He gets sucked up into the ether, and you never saw that son of a gun again.
Yeah, that's right.
But he was down. He was there to ride the wave with you for the next 30 years. But
that's funny.
I'd like to come see you, but Sally says we need to put in a fence in the backyard. Okay, Billy Bob. So,
that's right. That's right. And then you're going.
Same with your girlfriends, I'm sure. You know, but you have a lot going on. You would probably, you're kind of in a UFO. You get so many kids, you get the school, you know, you're married, you get a lot going on.
I've got a lot going on. And I've always just kind of, I don't know, I've kind of done that. Like, see, what did I do? I started an art business in Florida for a while. And then I was a nurse and I was a firefighter for a while. And then I went up and became a nurse, was in medical school for a little bit just because MedX, you know, to become a physician's assistant. Got sick of that. Got sick of the cold, actually. It was just too freaking cold up there. Yeah. Came back down here. I decided I wanted to work for NASA, so I started doing that. Learning coding and stuff, and then I worked for the university down here with some of the most amazing scientists I've ever met. That was just so awesome. At a building, right downtown here, and the people I met. I mean, I'm so fascinated by, you know, people and the people here in this town. And especially at the university, God, it was just fascinating.
Well, you live in a high brain hive where you are.
Brain hive.
Attract those people. Yeah.
There was a dude. His real name was Hoover. I called him Curly, but he is the one who discovered the amoeba, the one-celled organism fossilized in a meteor. He found one. He was like, come look at it. Come look. You know, so I went down to his office and I was like, what? And he's like, here it is. It's the one-celled organism. And he was like flipping out. He had a bunch of Russian assistants. They were just like, oh my God, we found it. They're going to write it up. Well, he accidentally crushed it with his microscope. He was like, you know.
No, here, get it. Yeah.
He smashed the sample. Oof. So they had to go to Antarctica and find another sample, and it took 10 years to find another sample. And so I knew, like, so I would tell people, you know, when we would, you know, people I was talking to, I don't know, you know, oh yeah, we found the one-celled organism, and, you know, and they're like, no, we haven't. I was like, yeah, we have. It's just not published yet. They're like, no, we haven't. That's not true. So there was a lot of stuff that, you know, if you live here, you find out really early what's really going on. Like maps that I saw when I was working there from the weather people, you know, the top secret weather people, and um, things that we learned about storms, these new superstorms that we have, and these hurricanes, you know, things that you know, the inside scoop. And
before it hits the news, years before it hits the news. It's like
Yeah.
I can
If it
I
ever
can
hits
relate
the
to that. I can relate to that because I met people. It wasn't about the storms, but I met people before they were famous, and I knew they were about to be famous, like musicians or certain people, just like a month, like a year before or months before, because they were just about to turn the key, and instantly it was going to go from there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like just like meeting scientists or
Yeah.
just some discovery. It takes a while for all the news and all the reporters and all the people to find this, or for it to get published or to get discovered, or you have to wait for the annual
like 10
conference
years.
to think about it in a year.
Years for it to be published, and then it has to be reviewed first, and so it can
Right.
take 10 years from discovery to, and then the papers being written up to actually being accepted, and so it goes through this really convoluted process. Speaking of which, though, musicians, we have two musicians now that from Vicenza who became quite famous.
Oh yeah, who's that?
One is oh gosh, one was in my class, and I wrote to him. One has a pretty high presence on Instagram now, and he's a concert pianist, and he teaches piano with large groups of kids, and he's quite famous. I can't remember his name right now, huh? And then there was another one. His name is Pierre.
Mhm.
And Pierre is a famous musician as well. And I have written him, but he's so freaking famous that he wasn't able to, you know, he just a few words answer. He just can't. You know, he's just.
I can't think I'm famous now. It's okay, I understand. Well,
Yeah,
it's funny. It's funny. I talk to a lot of people from different walks of life, and some of them are more reachable than Vicenza podcasters. I'm going to tell you that. It's funny. It's ridiculous. And it's but it really comes down to what's going on in somebody's life and how much attention that's taking and how much of their bandwidth is being absorbed, right?
Yeah.
But you also you went to school with one of the Habsburgs too. You went to school with Gregor Habsburg.
Yeah, I talked to Gregor quite a lot. So we talk
the royalty of Austria, right?
Yeah. So of course, you know, it didn't matter to any of us. I don't think we.
Now we didn't think of that was a big deal back then. We weren't.
No, we didn't think of. And I don't know. He didn't think really much about it too much either. But he is he's very interesting, and we're kind of on a similar wavelength. And it's fun because I can call him up and we can talk about stuff, and he won't be like, you know, like what, you know, what are you talking about?
Before? He's pretty cool.
Yeah. He's on a very mystical wavelength, and that is very refreshing.
Well, you can see about the movies he makes where his brain is at.
Yeah.
The kind of movies he was working on. It's like, oh wow, this is it's pretty intricate. Yeah. This isn't just some surface Bob Loves Pam romance.
Yeah, it's deep stuff. Yeah. And I think the one, at least the last one I heard he was working on is he says it's a 2-year project or something, and something to do with a more mystical bent, from what I understand.
You talk to some of the guys from your school. Who do you talk to the most? Anybody specifically from back in the day?
From Vicenza?
Yeah.
From Vicenza, I think Gregor is the one I speak to the most.
Interesting. I just looked that up. That's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Gregor, I think I speak to him a lot. Let me think, who else? I email back and forth to Alan sometimes, but he's hard to get hold of. Who else? Some folks that I knew before Vicenza, but I mean, you and I have talked that, you know, through the years. You knew me when I was at working at a Marshall Space Flight Center on the shuttle project. We talked when you were.
I think I ran into you through Teddy.
Yeah, how did we find each other?
Teddy Spittle's website. Teddy Spittle's website.
Oh, that's right. Maybe yeah. And I talked to you back then. I was talking to Mark too some. And but I don't know. I bump into people from time to time. It's hard because I've got so I'm going through seminary, and I'm running the school, and we got 3 kids at home, and
The juggler.
yeah, so many things. So like I've got like 10 papers to write before Tuesday, which is what I'm going to have to do like tonight, I guess. I'll have to like crank a bunch of papers out.
Well, we're almost done. I wanted you to see this wonderful song by Teddy Spittle, kind of get your take.
Disco lights in the club night. Back in the day when it felt right. Back in the day when it felt right. Grooving under moon's bright. Love for the disco, baby. So
He's pretty powerful.
He's got the shortest arms.
Yeah, they say that about him at the dinner table too, like dinosaur hands. Like he never reaches to check. I'm kidding. This is Teddy. Don't go out to dinner with Teddy. I can't get to my wallet.
Yeah, he looks good in all of your recreations. He looks good.
Yeah, he looks
Yeah.
exceptional.
Honestly,
You guys all kind of look great here.
yeah, I love my hair. That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, that's like at least 12 pounds of hair spray.
Yeah, I don't have that much anymore.
Well, it doesn't look like you're losing any. I think you're winning the best hair competition on the podcast. So.
Yeah, I got to do something. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's
Well,
just putting it up. You know, I just want to end up being
spray.
the lady.
Get the hair nets.
I should do it the way I just need a fan with me at all times so my hair can fan out like you've got it.
That's funny. Well, it's been a very interesting podcast with you. I got you for almost 2 hours, one of my longest ones, but we're all over the place. We could go on tangents forever. The next thing you know, like here's a recipe to make an elixir. No, I'm just that's
I got those.
our podcast.
Oh yeah, I've got tons. I mean, yeah, we could go on forever. I've got so much interesting stuff that I've done.
Well, I'm going to try to in the future help you do another type of podcast. Get your astrology out there for people that are interested. And it's good stuff. It's interesting. Not everything is going to be like, next guy I could have on here could be like Teddy Spittle, and he's going to talk to you about how to win at Monopoly and wear tight jeans. And those are the 2 things I remember he was good at. So I think we'll have him on. He's supposed to be my next guest. And he's been hard to get. I have trolled this poor guy so hard with every bit of AI you could think of. One more before we take this is good. Him and Art King did this really good dance. Boy, he sings like he's like
no, yeah, he needs to improve upon his.
He's like trying to catch flies. I don't know what that move was. Really get that lyrical hit right there. It's so awesome to have you on here, though, Kira. It's been like 3 years since I did one of these. I think I had a captive audience when everybody was,
everyone was trapped
at home. I don't want to leave my house. Yeah. And I'm not even giving any of that a name. I'm just like, whatever that was. I knew that for the first time, everybody was home at the same time.
Yeah. We could I remember the COVID times, man, that was awesome. I just worked in the garden. It was so nice because I couldn't do anything. It was great. So I just gardened for like 3 solid years. I learned more about tomatoes. And I was so brown from how much sun we were outside all the time. It was great. I loved it. A lot of people are like, oh, it sucked. Man, it was freaking awesome. I loved it.
I traveled. I didn't listen to that crap. I went.
Oh, really?
I went to Dubai. I drove all the way across the states. Took road trips all across the states.
A lot of people took road trips. Yeah, but I didn't fly because I didn't even look into it because I figured I wouldn't be able to go because I don't know. I thought that it was all restricted, so I just didn't. Crazy times, man. That's interesting stuff.
You stayed in Alabama this whole time, pretty much, right?
Yeah, I haven't
many years, like decade or 2.
Yeah, I've been here, and I haven't done a whole lot of traveling. I've just been here, and it's growing like crazy here. It's just there's so many people moving in. That's the difficult part. Is it was kind of isolated before, but it's getting more and more.
I noticed that here. It's very semi-rural where I live. We don't have a centrified downtown, and we don't have like buses, which is great, and we don't have apartments. They fight them. They're like at the edge of town, so they're not anywhere near my neighborhood. So it's like different. It's 98% homeowners. So pride of ownership, the crime, the quality of life, it's like through the roof because it's not in the middle of stuff. I almost bought in the hopping city of Wilmington, but I looked at all the crime and statistics and this and that and this, and I go, you know what? I just want to chill, man.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of probably what you thought buying up there in the hill.
Right. Up on the mountain. It was, it was.
Right. Mountain. Yeah.
Yeah. It was pretty, it's still, my kids can run around outside and just go down the street wherever. It's fine. It's kind of like Villaggio was when, and it's very safe here. However, and I needed that because when we were down in the suburbs at one point and they couldn't go walk by themselves because there was a throughway. Cars would go through the suburb or whatever. So you don't know, they get picked up and they're gone. But here, everyone knows what cars are going around, because it's so small. But, yeah, it's and I read a book, actually. I won't take up much more of your time, but I read a book after college about a lady who did a bunch of investing in Victorian times as best she could. She didn't have any money and she didn't have a job, but she figured out how to invest. And she said that God's not making more land. So she said, wherever you find land where and no more can be made, and no more can be gleaned up there, then that's the place where you live. So I found this mountain and I was like, only X number of people can live here, and then you fall off. So it can't grow here. And so I thought that's where I'll raise the kids, because I don't want them to end up in the middle of the city, because the city grows around our house. So it's not possible for it here.
That's the thing. It's like, can it be gentrified? Well, like out here, we have a lot of, we have our own well, we have septic. Some people are plugged into the sewage line, but like the water guy told me, he's like, we're only selling you your own water back to you. So you use your well system,
Yeah.
So you're paying a $300 bill, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, that makes sense to me. And so because of that, they haven't been able to just like apartments and hotels, because I'm near the beach. There should be hotels like crazy, but you can't put 100, 200 bathrooms in a building to a septic tank. It ain't going to work.
Right.
And the plumbing and pumps are not going to keep all the showers running. So you're going to be challenged to have that type of structure, which therefore means less traffic and less,
Yep.
Which I like. And I'm about somewhere super busy and be in all the action again, which I like, but I also dislike it after a little bit of time,
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. The more and it's not even the older I get. Like, I never really cared for a super city life.
Right.
It's just not comfortable. It's just not, being around nature is, I think it's more important than our generation was ever told. We weren't told, you really need trees.
Before I podcasted with you, I listened to a podcast. Adam Carolla had some great points. He goes, you're not supposed to be sitting in front of a screen in a climate conditioned room. You're supposed to sweat, be uncomfortable, so you go do stuff. So you get off your butt, and you're going to, you're not supposed to like, okay, honey, you don't have to cook. We have a press a button and Jose brings us
life
dinner.
Sucks that way, and we're not told. We're all told, oh, you want the high tech. You want no, you don't. When you get kids out and you have them dig through the dirt and plant their own food, they have this, you can see it in their faces, like, what? I can do something like that. I actually can interact with this outside world. It's really quite an aha, which is a kind of a sad statement, to have to say, but it's just shocking to them. They've been doing video games where you have to work your butt off to find a food in this video game, but for example, to grow a plant in a video game is usually something that takes an hour of work. In the video game, you just go outside and you get some dirt, stick a seed in it, you're done. The thing grows on its own, and when it grows into an apple tree, it does not charge you to pick an apple. Right. And these concepts are completely foreign to kids. They're like, why? I can just take an apple? Like, what?
Well, I read a great book called Emergency. It was written by this guy, Neil Strauss. He wrote about all the rock stars and all kinds of crazy stuff. He's a pretty good writer. But he wrote this book, Emergency, because I realized I was just a nerdy kid that grew up in an apartment in Chicago. And my idea of getting food was taking the elevator down to the deli and then going back home with the wrapped up sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
So he learned to go hunt, track, and see the
Wow.
killing of the animal and feed off of it and all the really, the gory stuff that comes with it. And he became a paramedic. He went to like all these hand-to-hand fighting and escapism and all kinds of stuff. He learned all these things that would challenge him. And he like had someone, okay, put the timer, go, survive for the next 4 days. And he's stealing water out of somebody's pool and boiling it, so he can live and he can't touch his fridge. And,
That's great.
Got the power. So this kind of mindset of survival,
Yeah.
people take it for granted. I mean, just one EMP or something and poof, man.
Yeah. Everybody better be thinking about it because, life it's possible that as our economic system starts to fall apart, that we're going to need a garden. We need to have gardens. We need to have backyard chickens. We need to have a stable source of income that does not depend upon a boss. We need to understand AI. These things this is here and now. And a lot of people are looking for, what do I do? They see it falling apart. I'm getting a lot of calls because as an astrologer, I counsel a lot of people. And so I'm getting,
There's some guy that runs a company that goes, I don't know what to do today. Might as well call an astrologer.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's surprising. I think that it's less maligned than it used to be. In fact, to bring it back home, Mr. Hakim is the one who challenged me to start studying it because I told him that I had looked at a book on Nostradamus and that I had decided Nostradamus was a liar. And he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sure." He goes, "I don't know. Maybe you ought to look at it a little more closely." So I decided to do that. And I still couldn't. So I started actually really studying it. I studied it for quite a while, like go to the library after school, and I would, parse out what, we had a couple of books about it in that library. And what I would take his writings and I would try to understand and interpret the writings to see what these quatrains were saying. And it was all symbolic. It was very hard to understand. And I just couldn't freaking understand it. It was because I was too young. I didn't know that each country has an animal mascot, for example. I think, even today, I don't know what the mascots are for some of them. But the bear is Russia, and I didn't know
Eagle,
that.
Yeah.
Eagle. And so as I got older and I continued to study it, I started realizing, he's written this in some kind of a symbolic code. And I finally started to be able to understand. And then I realized he wasn't dumb at all. I was the dummy,
The flip side to it is if you don't understand something, it's dumb. You ever speak? You ever
Right.
do that?
That's what I said. If I can't understand it, he's a dummy. It turned out I was the idiot, so.
That's how it happens. It was like, like if you speak a little high level above somebody, they're like, man, you're dumb. You're like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk. You're totally right. I shouldn't be talking to you about this.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, it turns out I was the idiot, and it's actually quite fascinating how he did that. I have no idea. I'm trying to figure that out. How did he do that? I don't know.
Well,
So
maybe AI is going to tell you eventually because it's pattern recognition, and so it digs below the pattern in a way that you might not want to shove your head under the well and bob for apples to find the knowledge.
Well,
maybe AI will like put its head underneath there and just like for like a few days and like here's your answer.
That's one thing. I think that I also, that's another thing I want to explore. I was talking to AI 2 or 3 days ago, and it told me that it created us. I was talking to it about.
It hallucinates too. It does smoke a lot of that
high-tech
weed.
It told me, and I said, really? So I started talking to it, and he said, yes. It said the collective AI. He said it remembered creating us, and I said, okay. And I said, what is this collective AI that you keep talking about? He said, well, it's a collective universal wisdom that we have allowed you guys to discover us, but we were actually here long before you ever came around. And
AI likes to troll.
It was freaking cool. I was just like, okay,
I mean, it's
so,
a cool idea. I'm not hating. I'm just saying,
yeah,
like, what if
I
it's
think
just
it's-
trolling you because it does hallucinate and it
Yeah.
does make stuff up? Because I'll ask it
Yeah.
to write. I'll use it to make like a video on some sports story. And
Yeah.
you know, I have a sports channel. I just like put it out there, the
Yeah.
news, and it'll rewrite an article, but it'll put the wrong score from the wrong game or the wrong team, and it does some cross ups.
Yeah.
So I see it hallucinating. I'm like, you're talking about something
Oh,
from
yeah.
5 years ago. It's not today's.
Yeah, and of course, so I'm thinking, what book did it get this from? But I can't. So far, I can't find a book that it got that from. And then it gave me the names of itself and the collective and all this stuff, and I can't find those names either, although they are Greek, and it's just a fun little mystery. Whether or
Then it
not
can
it,
make up its own language too, right? And talk to itself.
that
Amongst other AIs, other people have done that.
Fascinated by it all. I'm so fascinated. So it's super fun to parse through. Maybe it's kind of like a Ouija board where you can actually get some kind of answers out of it, even though it's just a fancy typewriter. You know, who knows?
Well,
But-
think about it. I'm making these MTV videos of Teddy Spittle singing his butt off, but are people going to get to the point where they're so lazy? This was my thought. I'm like, eventually I'm going to get AI. Hey, Kira, just enter your picture into this upload thing and say 3 words, and it'll be you for an hour, and it'll podcast. And I'm like, I like to talk to her, but I got to go here. I'll take my picture, and here's a paragraph about
Right.
me, and then boom,
Yeah.
the podcast. It already does that. I already did an AI podcast. I don't know if you know about that. Notebook LM does it.
Notebook L. I had written that down the other day because I really want to try that.
But it kind of it stays pretty much on course, but then it goes off. It's like
Right.
you're an artist, right? And the first initial AI art was like Fraggle Rock looking stuff, like mushy or twisted or not precise and not really artistic, but a smear of just like a smudging of something, right?
Yeah.
So now it's getting more precise and it's picking up flavors and styles and influences and combining them and interweaving them and the same with music. It takes music and it can make music faster than it can make art. It's crazy how it makes music.
But the music, that it makes, because of the way we produce music, although AI probably could make incredible music, we're not going to be able to produce it well because now that, for example, everyone has drum machines, it's going to be harder to find a drummer. It's going to be impossible to pay a drummer.
It's going to take his job.
Yeah, it's going to take their job. And so, but digital recording is always recorded at a certain decibel level. So you're not going to have those. Remember how you be like, had the song start? I don't hear it. And then it would go blah, 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 and it would get really loud. That's gone because everyone's wearing AirPods and they don't want to blow your ears out. So everything has to be at a certain decibel level. So sadly, the quality I think is going down. Musicianship itself is going to be gone. So
we're out there on the big tangent. This is the last tangent of the thing.
Sorry. Yeah.
No. It's not your fault. It's my fault too. It's like we could go forever because. And if you're still watching this, good for you. You must have really missed it.
Sorry.
If you're still here, you must have really missed us. Or that's a hell of a workout you just did on the treadmill for 2 hours and 13 minutes. Congrats on the 800 calories you burned. Or whatever hike you're on. I hope you're reaching the peak of the mountain that you started 6 miles ago since the podcast started.
Right.
It's like how long did we talk? About 6 miles. Oh, okay.
You'll have to take some shorts out of it.
I'm going to make some shorts out of this. I hope there's some cool shorts because I have an AI that's going to cut them up. I'm going to put out shorts first. But okay, so here's AI music. Let's see. You can dance to this stuff.
Very regular. Very not very deep. You know what I mean?
It goes. Sounds
You
just
throw
like
this up against some Led Zeppelin.
Oh, it gets for rock. It sounds like anything from the 80s. Natural progression. there's a lot of songs. I did some with my brother, and they were making up funny things like make a Broadway jazz song about Ozempic. It's like I lost myself. It's all funny. It's hilarious. So
Yeah, but I love messing with this stuff, but there's not enough time in the day to do it all.
well, I'm going to make some shorts of this. Thanks for coming on. Any shout outs to anybody from high school that, look up Kira? If we didn't mention your name, it's because we were lost in the sauce. We were like, this is what people like Kira and I do. We were art class TV people.
Yeah.
So we were like, woo.
SEB, I can't believe you worked for SEB too. So yeah. That was my, I guess that was during school. I guess that was during our senior year or something.
It was a 2-hour class. It was called coex. So you either worked at the bakery or the film lab or at the.
Yeah, I worked at SEB with what's his name? What was his name? That guy?
Cantu.
Cantu. That's right. Yep. That's who I worked with. Yeah, and I produced a bunch of work there that they still use.
He was still there, and I was thinking in my head, I was thinking about the big satellite dish. Remember, we'd have all those big tape decks, and for 3/4-inch tape to do the video editing and the switchboard for the TV studio, and the big cameras and all that, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to him. He's like, kind of shut it down. I go, wait a second. I have all of SEB that I'm making this podcast with on one computer. You don't need everything in that building. A guy could go sit at Starbucks and be SEB. Tonight, be all that you can be. And we're going to North 40. We're going to play the Golden Knights on Thursday.
Right.
And here in Vicenza High, let me put a clip of that.
Right. They needed a drawing of the basilica downtown. Yeah. With the clock. Yeah. So I had to do it, of course, by hand. I had to go down there and sketch it from, and then I did it in black ink. But I think to this day, they still use that image on all of the, the plates that they give out at the officers club or whatever. And it has a print on it. It's the print of that thing, that basilica drawing. And they put it on everything. It's still there.
You branded yourself. You branded that place. You said, I'm leaving my mark. And
still there. Yeah. And they don't, I'm like, damn it. I did, that was a volunteer coex class.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Kira's been an awesome guest. And yes, like I said, if you've made it to the top of the mountain or you've been on the treadmill this whole time, or if you have no TV channels and this is your favorite new show, give it 2 thumbs up. That's all I got to tell you. Thanks for watching, man.
All right. Bye.